Welcome everybody to the winter edition of the Weekend in Norfolk. I'm Doug McDevitt.
And I'm Chris Keyes.
It's Chris Keyes. And we're here to talk about winter photography in Norfolk. And,
Norfolk, the Icebox of Connecticut.
Correct, which is very apropos. So if you happen to be living outside of the area and you're looking for a place to shoot because it's beautiful in the wintertime, lots of atmosphere and things to shoot in the snow, but you happen to live in an area that may not have some snow, we always have snow.
We always have snow. If it's snowing anywhere in the state of Connecticut, it's snowing in Norfolk because basically we've got the elevation. It's the highest mean elevation of any town in the state. And I think we sit at, 1,600 feet, something like that?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. So, yeah.
10 degrees colder than Torrington, which is only 11, 12 miles away from here.
Right, so. And I guess it's worth noting that this morning it was a balmy 6 degrees in Norfolk,
So we like to talk about some of the places that we can go within Norfolk to shoot. And I know Chris and I shoot quite frequently. Chris likes film, shoots primarily film.
Doug's on digital for the most part, but he shoots film as well.
And it is true. And so we're going to talk about some of the places we go. Some of the places I've shot recently are Buttermilk Falls. I've shot in Barber Woods recently. The Blackberry River, which runs through Norfolk, and gives you wonderful opportunities of photography, as well as the center of Norfolk itself, Station House Square.
Station Place Cafe. Station Place itself has there's beautiful architecture throughout this town. There's the library, the beautiful edifice that we happen to be sitting in, which is always worth a visit. There is the Steckle Estate across the street, which has a beautiful music shed that's home to the Yale School of Music and Arts every summer.
There's a really cool stone bridge there. I just shot last week.
Absolutely, yeah. Just taking a walk on the Steckle Estate itself will get you some beautiful results. Yeah. So, and downtown itself, as Doug said, there's beautiful buildings. So, it's really a neat little town, and we're very lucky to have some wonderful outdoor areas as well. Doug mentioned a couple. I think it's worth mentioning Haystack Mountain, which is part of the Norfolk Land Trust. As well as Barber Woods. Campbell Falls lies a beautiful waterfall that lies right on the New Marlborough, Massachusetts, Connecticut border, right off of Route 272. Is absolutely gorgeous. There's Great Mountain Forest, which is a working forest that's been established at the turn of the century, which is, I think, Norfolk Land Trust has 4,000 acres. I think Great Mountain Forest has nearly that many, but there are trails throughout. With information you can access online as to taking walks. And then there's the Rails to Trails Committee, which has taken some of the original beds of the Central New England Railroad and done some great work on clearing some of those to increase our trail systems in town. And so there's a lot of places that are really pretty cool to visit, especially in the winter.
So whatever your particular discipline is, you'll find it here in Norfolk. I know I've walked a lot of the trails. I tend to favor, and I think we both seem to gravitate towards water. Water is one of my favorite.
Myself as well. I'm obsessed with water as a
canvases to use.
Yeah.
And there's wonderful streams, and I think as I hike through a lot of the trails that are around here, and there are many. One of the places you can stop is at the hub. Is the hub still open?
The hub is closed right now.
Yeah. But even if you come into the library here.
Yeah, the library, we are open
for
business, and there's a lot of information here. Yeah.
But as I walk in the trails, I come across numerous small streams that are just terrific to photograph, and the trails themselves. So it gives you the opportunity to do the types of photography, be it landscape. You mentioned Haystack Mountain, which is perfect because the elevation there gives you a vista that is just breathtaking.
Absolutely, as well as Dennis Hill.
Dennis Hill State, excellent. That's very nearby, and you can see some wonderful things. And then if you get into the trails themselves, you can get into some very detailed or macro photography.
Sure.
There's ice buildups all over the place in the form of the falls. Recently shot at Buttermilk Falls, and that was interesting.
And I was at Campbell Falls again this past Sunday, and it's completely iced up. It's a beautiful waterfall, and right now, with having been about 10 degrees for the last week around here, there's a full canopy of ice over the falls with water that is running underneath it. It was just absolutely spectacular. So I got some hopefully good stuff there. So digital people have the advantage of knowing exactly what the results are as they look down at this camera. So Doug, when you're on trail, tell us some of the things that you've seen that have been of particular interest to you.
Well, it's really cool because when you're walking on the trails, and you don't see this in the winter or off winter time period, so it seems like there's nothing around you, but you will find a track. Tracks will be everywhere. There's coyotes, there's bobcats, and occasionally you do see them. It pays to look up in the air too, because you're going to see an owl or two,
Right.
or some, and certainly birds. One cool thing that happens around here, and of course you can use all kinds of cameras. You don't have to have the professional cameras. Your phone will work just fine,
It's
especially
true.
the selfies. I find that around my house, if I put some bird seeds in, and this can work in the woods too, if you take out some sunflower seeds and keep them and put them up in your hand, have a little patience, the chickadees will land right on your hands, and they'll feed right out of your hands.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, you could shoot maybe like a selfie or something like that.
Sure.
But there's plenty of wildlife around. Now that require a little bit of patience.
Patience is something that we could talk about at length when it respects to photography. I mean, the longer that you find yourself in a really cool location, the longer you spend there, the greater likelihood that the light is going to improve. Patience is everything as far as I'm concerned. And we didn't really talk about tripods, but we have a tripod in front of us. It's really worth going to the trouble of carrying one with you. It really is. As far as I'm concerned, they're essential. I actually always have a tripod in the trunk of my car. If it's not with me, I can't use it. But 85+% of the shots that I take, I'm using a tripod. It's that much better. It really
Recently,
is.
the ones that I shot at Buttermilk Falls, because of the tripod, I was able to get some of that long exposure, which is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And of course, you need a tripod to be able to handle that.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And when it comes to film, the longer exposure, I mean, I do a lot of black and white, as you see, we'll see, but if you really want those deep contrasty colors, the old rule of thumb is that the longer exposure stop down and the longer exposure that you take, the better the color rendition is going to be in a photograph.
But it's a lot of fun to come up here also and shoot some of the architecture. A lot of times when I travel up here, I'll make note with a piece of paper of some structures that I see, and I go back, I pay attention to the weather, I look at storms that are coming in, because it's really cool to come up here and shoot while the snow is actually falling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, plenty of walks up to Haystack,
Yeah.
which is, Doug had mentioned before. You've got great opportunities when the weather is moving in. And again, I always like to pay attention to what the weather is going to be, because I see that when it comes to temperature inversions, that's when the weather is moving in, when you've got a cold front moving in or a warm front, that's when you're going to see those spectacular sunsets and sunrises, which is what you're really after.
Yeah. I had one that was shot recently down, right down 272 of a barn, I believe it's in there.
I love barns.
And
I'm obsessed by
It was
barns.
so foggy, because I love fog. Weather is an excellent
It really does.
photography
The more
subject.
atmosphere that you can get into your pics, the more interesting they're going to be, basically, I think. So.
In addition to where you can go within Norfolk, some of the tips that we might want to offer is, for example, if you do shoot digital, we highly suggest you bring maybe an extra battery, keep that close to your body. Some of the things that we had mentioned, since we both like to shoot near water, is I always have a pair of crampons. These are called yaks, and they just go on your feet, so they get you some traction on a very slippery purchase, yes, because you will be walking and treading on some ice. One of the other things that we like to bring is make sure you have a pair of gloves. These happen to be mittens, but gloves work, but they're fingerless, so I fold these back because you're going to be manipulating a lot of the control. So it will get cold up here, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
As far as film also can be very susceptible to cold temperatures.
It can, yes. You can have the same issue. Generally speaking, not quite so much, but it's always a good idea to have an extra pair of batteries with you when you're carrying your camera around, be it digital or film.
Now, one of the things that we said the third time I've mentioned this is it's called Icebox of Connecticut, and it's called that for a reason. So when you do come here, I would highly suggest that you, especially if you're coming from an area outside of here, a little further south of here, check the weather before you come. Check online, see what the climate is, because you're going to find that we're considerably colder. You step outside and you think it's not so bad. When you get up here, you're going to be 10 to 15 degrees colder than what you think it is. So layer heavily, make sure that you have a lot of, you may be outside for a fairly extended period of time. You might have your car nearby, but
especially if you're going to go up to Haystack or Venice Hill. It may not be Mount Washington, but you're still, exposing yourself to some cold
So
temperatures.
it's going to be a lot of fun up here shooting. You're going to come away from here with some wonderful experiences and probably some excellent shots that you can share.
For sure.
And
What else do we have to share?
well, we have a lot of the photographs that you'll probably be seeing as we talk. I think,
Yeah, the stuff that Doug has shot, of course, is I guess what you shared with this is mostly digital images.
yeah, they'll all be digital.
And
There's
everything
actually
that-
some film stuff in there too.
Oh, good.
Like I said,
Oh,
I
that's
went
nice.
back into my library and pulled some old stuff out that
As did I,
for
yeah.
film.
I try not to get
I
too
just
many,
don't remember
but
which is which.
mostly 35 millimeter, which I have to say that if you're shooting digitally, you definitely have an advantage over film on 35 millimeter. The resolution is better, particularly with low light. Digital has it all over film, it really does.
One of the tips, you can go online and find a lot of these tips, but some of the things are, is if you're shooting in snow, digital cameras, and even film for that matter, the meters will generally want everything to be gray. So what you're going to want to do is overexpose, especially in snow, if you want to get the white snow. Now, if I shoot primarily in RAW, and you can bring back a lot of detail and do it in post editing.
Yep.
But make sure that you overexpose by at least 1.5 to 2 stops to get the white.
It's always a
to
good
get the
tip.
white, yeah.
Yep.
But I think that's it. Just prepare yourself before you come up, as far as staying warm with the equipment, and just have fun. when
Have
you
fun,
come
get
in.
out there and have fun. It doesn't really matter what we're shooting on, be it film or digital. You know, it's all about getting out there and having fun and enjoying this beautiful town. And again, please come and visit us.
And I want to thank Ann for letting us here. Stay here
I'd like to
at
thank the
library.
director of the library, Ann Havmeyer, for allowing us to set up here, socially distanced as we are during the middle of COVID, and hopefully we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So make use of the good light and have fun.
Come on up here and visit us for a weekend in Norfolk, and thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, Doug.
Chris.
Thanks, folks.